add an entry saying that this is an admin user and it has a specific password. Okay, so let's say the attacker was able to add that in a database. So and we came to know about that. So what we will do as a security professional, we'll go and like what we'll do is that we will ask the service team to delete that entry from the database so that the attacker is not able to get a persistence hold of the system. Okay, so once that credentials has been removed of the attacker will not be able to again kind of log in into the WhatsApp server, or let's say any other software that is kind of running the database. Okay, so but now we know that okay, there's also database replication in action. So we'll ask the service team, is that was there a database that was replicated when the attacker was actually added an entry? So let's say for an example, this is a database. Okay, and somehow the attacker was able to add an entry over here saying the username of the attacker is something like that, like admin. Okay, and it has the admin privilege. Okay, and it has a specific password. Okay, so let's say we came to know about this somehow. So we asked the database service team to remove this entry from here so that the attacker is not able to kind of hold a persistence based access towards the system. Okay, but now thing is that since there is database replication in action, okay, DR, so let's say there are also other databases that has been kind of replicated. So what will happen is that, let's suppose the replication happened when the attacker had added its own entries. Okay, so what will happen, this specific entry will also be saved in this databases. Okay, so in most of the scenario, what happened, like when I handle an incident, what I also try to check is that what kind of database replication were taken, and was there any kind of database replication that happened when this malicious script or malicious entry was added to the database. And there has been like lot of incidents which I have handled where the database replication actually happened after the attacker has kind of made certain configuration, let's say some configuration changes, or let's say some specific malicious entries. Okay, so let's say the attacker was able to upload a exe file, for an example, and he or she was able to upload that malicious exe file in the database. Okay, and let's say this exe file is getting served to the customers if they visit a specific website. So let's say as an attacker, I was able to kind of attack the Facebook database, and I uploaded an exe, and now I can access that exe by facebook.com/abc.exe, for an example. Okay, or facebook.com/abc. So then what I can do as an attacker is that I can trick multiple users to visit facebook.com/abc, and once they visit that, because the website is more looks like valid one, because it has both a reputation as well as the age is kind of correct. Okay, so once they visit facebook.com/abc, so what will happen, the malicious exe file will be served to them, and that's where if they execute that, they will be kind of compromised. So we need to know, so what happened, like there was one incident where there was a malicious code that was saved in the database, and what happened in that, when we came to know, one of the questions that no one asked, but I was able to kind of ask that. The only reason was that I actually did a multiple system design course earlier. So what I asked the service team is that, guys, do you also replicate a database in background? So because the thing is that the service team are not security minded people. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is that they will try to avoid the case as much as possible. They will try to close the case as much as possible. So as a security professional, it's our responsibility to kind of make sure that the incident has been contained, or the malware has been kind of eradicated fully from the system. Okay, so thing is that when I asked them, okay guys, were there any database replication that has taken place? So they said they need to look at, they said yes. So then we kind of looked at the replicated database, and that's where we found out that the malicious exe file was also existing inside this replicated exe database. Okay, and what would have happened if I would have not asked this question is that I would be very happy, the security team will be very happy that they have removed the exe. But let's suppose that this replicated database was restored at certain point of time. time. Let's say after 1 year, or let's say after 3 years, or let's say after a day or after a month. So what would happen is that this exe file would again be kind of started getting served by the attacker for the attacker. So the attacker will definitely know that there's a database replication in place. So even though right now the facebook.com/abc is not serving the exe, but the person is pretty sure that at certain moment of time when the database replication, when the replicated database will be again restored for any kind of scenario, let's say, the attacker will again be able to kind of get hold of the system. Okay, or let's say they'll be able to kind of compromise the users who are visiting facebook.com. Okay, so that's the reason why we need to kind of know the system design in kind of what to say at core, what are the components of the system design when a very big software like WhatsApp is kind of built. And the other also reason is that let's suppose in going forward, if you want to kind of develop your own software, for an example, which you want to serve to the client. Yeah, go on. Any questions? Any question, guys?
No, sir.
Okay. So thing is that so what I was telling is that if you are kind of also planning to develop your own software, for example, let's say in the scale of WhatsApp, for example, you need to implement all these things, like all the things that are kind of said over here. These are the things
I
that,
missed a question. Hello, sir.
yes, ask, yeah, please.
Yeah, sir. Actually, I missed a question. So actually, my question is, you told about that database case which you handled. So,
Yes.
so actually, what was the alert that you got on the SIM tool, and how did you like clean that PC? So was it like you did some, like you had to rebuild that database, or was it just clean? You just cleaned that malware and that was it, using some AVR, some other thing. So what was the alert you got, and how you proceeded with the process?
Okay, so that was actually, I remember, was a 0-day attack. Okay, was a 0-day attack. Okay, where the SIM was not having any idea actually that there has been kind of attack ongoing. Okay, so the thing over there was that there was a Azure instance. Okay, and what I recall is that the Azure instance was actually making a DNS query. I think the DNS query, I think the alert that we got is that the Azure instance was making a DNS query to a known malicious domain. Okay, to a known malicious domain. Okay, and malicious domain, and I think that's where we kind of got an alert, and that's where what we did was that we investigated the system. Okay, we investigated system, and then that's where we kind of thing is that there was actually the attacker was actually able to get hold of the server, somehow via a 0-day attack. And the 0-day attack was related to, I think, one of the software, one of the pretty famous software of certain company. Maybe I don't recall the name, but it was of a specific. There was a specific, very famous software. It was running in that server to handle certain things. To kind of, it was actually, I think, a web server. So let's say it was an Apache web server, for example, and it was having a 0-day, and the attacker was somehow able to get hold of the server. Okay, and then what the alert that we got was that there's a known malicious domain that this Azure instance was trying to kind of reach out to. And then what we did is that we did the investigation. We tried to find out, okay, which software was trying to make that malicious domain query. And that's where we came to know that, okay, the Apache software, Apache server was itself doing that malicious domain query. Okay. And then what we did was like, first we thought, okay, it might be a false positive. But then what we did is that we did the memory forensics, or memory forensics server. And that's where we came to know is that the Apache web server is actually trying to execute another exe file, another software. Let's say that name is ABC. Okay, And this ABC is like, what to say, is like suspicious.